Alright, welcome back. So this video is a little different because the first song here, I'm just putting two videos together. This is Fitter, Happier, and Electioneering, I believe, right? Electioneering? Yes, Electioneering. So Fitter, Happier was very interesting, but also felt like almost an interlude to me. Like it felt like it was the equivalent of an interlude. And yeah, it's just weird and kind of short, so I'm putting it together with the other relatively short song, Electioneering, which is actually a really fun song. So anyway, I'm recording these intros after recording the full album reaction. We're going through Radiohead's OK Computer album in its entirety. Thank you for joining me. Let's get into this. 3, 2, 1, reaction time.
Fitter, happier, more productive, comfortable, not drinking too much, regular exercise at the gym, 3 days a week, getting on better with your associate employee contemporaries, at ease, eating well, no more microwave dinners and saturated fats, a patient better driver, a safer car, baby smiling in backseat, sleeping well, no bad dreams, no paranoia, careful to all animals, never washing spiders down a plug hole, keep in contact with old friends, enjoy a drink now and then, will frequently check credit at Moral, Bank, Hole in Wall, favors for favors, fond but not in love, charity standing orders, on Sundays reading Road Supermarket, no killing moths or putting boiling water on the hands, car wash, also on Sundays, no longer afraid of the dark or midday shadows.
Not unsettling at
So
all.
ridiculously
Everything's
teenage
totally
and
fine
desperate,
here.
nothing so childish, at a better pace, slower and more calculated, no chance of escape, now self-employed, concerned, but powerless, an empowered and informed member of society, pragmatism not idealism, will not cry in public,
No,
less
screw
chance
you.
of illness, tires that grip in the wet, shot of baby strapped in backseat, a good memory, still cries at a good film, still kisses with saliva, no longer empty and frantic, like a cat, tied to a stick,
Like a
that's
cat?
driven into frozen winter shit, the ability to laugh at weakness, calm, fitter, healthier, and more productive, a pig,
What
in
the
a
hell am I
cage,
listening to?
on antibiotics.
Some weird subliminal messaging. Fun times had by all. This is actually a really interesting track. Electioneering? Yeah, electioneering. Ooh. More cowbell, please. Ew. Really like the jangly tone on the guitar.
Just like
is that the end? Hell yeah! Freaking hell yeah! That was awesome. That was just awesome. Alrighty, let's take a look at the lyrics to both Fitter Happier and Electioneering, shall we? Starting with Fitter Happier. Fitter Happier is a list of bullet points that diagnose society for what it was, and where it was arguably headed at the time of the song's release. It specifically lists it in a matter-of-fact way to reflect the entire ethos of modern-day society being unemotional and cold. With the melancholic background melodies, the song becomes one of the most frightening songs on the album, but it is only describing modern life. Clearly something is wrong with our society then. This track is arguably the most accurate in describing what OK Computer is all about. The lyrics and images adapted from the album artwork were used on advertisements in music, magazines, and signs in the London Underground, and on shirts. The main lyrics are recited by a synthesized voice called Fred. Fred is found on the simple text application survived with 90s Macintosh computers, such as the LC2. Fitter, happier, more productive, comfortable, not drinking too much, regular exercise at the gym 3 days a week, getting on better with your associate employee contemporaries, at ease, eating well, no more microwave dinners and saturated fats, a patient, better driver, a safer car, baby smiling in back seat, sleeping well, no bad dreams, no paranoia, careful to all animals, never washing spiders down the plug hole, keep in contact with old friends, enjoy a drink now and then, will frequently check credit at moral bank hole in the wall, favors for favors, fond but not in love, charity standing orders, on Sundays, Ring Road Supermarket, no killing moths or putting boiling water on the ants. Car wash, also on Sundays, no longer afraid of the dark or midday shadows. Nothing so ridiculously teenage and desperate, nothing so childish, at a better place, slower, more calculated, no chance of escape. Now self-employed, concerned but powerless, an empowered and informed member of society, pragmatism, not idealism, will not cry in public, less chance of illness, tires that grip in the wet, shot of baby strapped in back seat, a good memory, still cries at a good film, still kisses with saliva, no longer empty and frantic like a cat tied to a stick that's driven into frozen winter shit, the ability to laugh at weakness, calm, fitter, healthier, more productive, a pig in a cage on antibiotics. This song is so weird. I love it so much. I don't even know, like, I feel like it kind of speaks for itself, right? Do we need to go through all the different comments beneath it? Starts with potential adjectives for a modified, pre-accustomed, and spoon-fed society not far from now. Utopia in the light of dystopia. They also sound like words that would be used when oppressing a group of people and keeping them from the truth. They hide behind a veneer through telling everyone they were making everything better. However, they're just using these fake words to gain trust and take more control and power for themselves. That's what's so strange about this song, is that almost everything that they're saying is considered good. Obviously, by the end, it gets a little weird, especially when you have, a pig in a cage on antibiotics. That's a little different. But all the rest of the stuff, almost all of it, is what's considered normal. This is all normal things. So this entire song is literally just, we live in a society personified. But very well done. I like it a lot. Yeah, so what makes it scary is that it's like a robot voice telling you this. Some of the things that it says are almost sound like an alien trying to communicate it. Like still kisses with saliva, stuff like that. Um, yeah, no longer empty and frantic. Stay on your antidepressants. Yeah. Oh boy. Fitter, healthier, and more productive. That's what the problem with it is the whole thing is just you must be as productive as possible in our machine that we have made. This line is similar to the first line of the song, except the word happier is replaced with healthier. This is a statement that that the life individuals live is not actually happy, but is only healthy. It may help them to live longer, but it doesn't make life any more interesting. It just keeps them around longer to keep doing everything that they want them to do. This line was inspired by a book York was reading at the time about farming. He recalls it was the first time I'd ever read anything about farming stuff. The fact that we're pumping the animals we eat full of antibiotics before we buy them, is then going into our bloodstream, making us resistant to antibiotics, blah, blah, blah. When a pig in a cage is a metaphor for a trapped person who is only surviving through medication, not true freedom. To truly raise a healthy pig, you have to give it freedom to graze. For a person, true freedom is a release from the bleak expectations of our culture, settling down, becoming a parent, being responsible, and following a routine, all things that the song alludes to. But yeah, this is very sad and kind of super depressing, yeah. But instead, the person is medicated and conforms to the prescribed path, driving a safe and reliable car, raising a child in a traditional manner, with only the memory of an empty and frantic past. The line signifies a shift in tone. As a listener, it seemed like the aforementioned lines were positive, as they were expected behavior of a model person. However, they are unreal expectations. The last line sums this up. You cannot keep a human caged up. You cannot expect us as a society to be free of mistakes, and you cannot expect a human to be perfect. Essentially, the song is a description of a perfect person, virtually a machine. One must experience life's challenges to grow as a person. And if you never make mistakes or encounter human error, this will never happen. Through failure, you learn. Through success, not so much. All right. Yeah. Very interesting song. Almost wouldn't call it a song. I guess it kind of is one, but it was very interesting. Next, you have Electioneering. Fun song, really. Like the jangly guitars on everything. It's a fun song. One of the most straightforwardly political songs in the Radiohead catalog. It captures the unrest against neoliberal policies that plagued the globe in the late 90s and would soon culminate in the major anti-globalization movement protests all around the world. Originally a standout from Radiohead's set while touring with REM, the record label decided not to release Electioneering as a single after the recorded version was not as well liked as the live version. Tom York explained that this was inspired by reading Noam Chomsky. As well as that, I had been reading a lot of Chomsky, and I had the feeling that when you read Chomsky, that you want to get out and do something and realize, in fact, you're impotent. In the end, after reading pages and pages of words about the third world and wars and world politics, York thought of Chomsky's writings and ended up boiling it all down to one phrase: cattle prods and the IMF, International Monetary Fund. There's no other way to say it, really. Interesting. I am not well versed in any of these politics or political policies or know much about any of it, so I will refrain from making too much comment. All right, I will stop. I will stop at nothing. Say the right things when electioneering. I trust I can rely on your vote. Oh, okay. Well, I can talk about that. That's general. Yes, almost all politicians do this. They pander to specific audiences and try to pander to the largest audience possible, to different groups of people, and then break all the promises that they made, Like, when it comes to politics, pandering makes sense to me. Like, it makes sense that people would do that. It's just very painful when they do not follow through on their promises. And when they don't follow through on their promises, that's when, yeah. Yeah. It's weird that you can lie about what you're going to do, They should change that, actually. Or maybe not. It's not something that can be changed, but instead there could be like a way to make it a way for a politician to reassure their audience, actually. What if it was possible for a politician to sign a legally binding contract forcing them to keep their promises that they made while, electioneering or attempting to be elected. That would make it that would actually make it more likely that that person would get elected, assuming that the majority of people agreed with their policies. Huh. Interesting. I'll keep that idea to myself, actually. No idea if something like that would even work or be legal, but still interesting. All right. This line and song is referring to Tony Blair's victory in the general election of the United Kingdom. Blair had changed the Labour Party and updated it to the New Labour. This system has 5 pledges, which you can learn more about here. All right. Radiohead were skeptics of this. They thought that Blair was going to not do the things that he promised and was only doing what the public wanted him to do to get elected. I will stop at nothing is revealed when the politicians say they want to improve something, they end up making it worse or just not doing anything at all. This ties into the line about the IMF and cattle prods. Labour supporters toasted their landslide victory to the sound of "Things Can Only Get Better." A few weeks later, OK Computer appeared to warn, no, things can only get worse. Yeah, yep. In an interview, Tom York explained that this line was inspired by some awkward social encounters on an American tour. I had this phase where I went through an American tour where we just seemed to be shaking hands all the time, and I was getting a bit sick of it and upset by it. So I came up with this running joke with myself when I used to shake people's hands and say, "I trust I can rely on your vote." They'd go, "Ha ha ha," and look at me like I was a nutcase, but the phrase sort of carried on. It was like a mantra. That's really cool, actually. Yeah, it's interesting. I've been reading a lot of what Tom York has said in interviews throughout this series and the other members of Radiohead. And at times they seem to come off a little bit arrogant with some of the things that they say about how, let's see, prog music is boring as they're trying to make prog music. They're calling let's see, what are some other things? They've compared themselves to the Beatles, and they've compared their music to Bohemian Rhapsody, which I don't know. But aside from that, they also seem like super, super intelligent people. Tom York seems like someone that I would probably end up looking up to, Like, all these things that he says, I agree with a lot of it. A lot of it has reading some of his quotes has opened my eyes to certain things. And he also seems like someone who's been through a lot, which I always like to have. Something that I like in artists is when they don't sugarcoat things. Because, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, bubblegum pop or things that do sugarcoat things does have a place, right? As a form of escapism almost. Or maybe not bubblegum pop, but specifically like positive music, right? But when an artist is open about hardships that they've encountered, or even better, when I view it this way, an artist can actually take traumatic things, or even not even traumatic, but bad things, and use them to fuel art and almost use bad things that have happened and turn it into something positive, into something other people can relate to, and also something that they can actually find some catharsis in and even profit off of, which are all good things for an artist, one of the benefits of wanting to become an artist, So I like that he's very upfront about all these different things. He's made up a mantra. It's funny, it's interesting. He seems like a very interesting person. Anyway, let's continue. All right, when I go forwards, you go backwards, and somewhere we will meet. When I go forwards, you go backwards, and somewhere you will meet. Then he just laughs. Radiohead's trademark cynicism. Tom York believes that the politician sees himself as going forwards, and the general public as going backwards in many aspects. But the somewhere we will meet has to do with neoconservative trickle-down economics, and another name for voodoo economics. Yeah. Trickle-down economics are generally defined by large tax cuts for the rich and overall purging of big government spending. The idea behind this, in the simplest terms, is that tax cuts for the upper brackets helps to stimulate the economy, which eventually trickles down to the lower classes through statewide prosperity. You may be catching from the tone of my voice that no. Yeah, F trickle-down economics. But anyway, to continue. The somewhere we will meet line refers to the idea trumpeted by some conservative politicians who promise voters that they will eventually meet each other in terms of prosperity, even though the whole idea of one person going forwards and the other going backwards and eventually meeting is Far-fetched, to say the least. It's a pyramid scheme. This is the metaphor for Radiohead's opinion of trickle-down economics. Yeah, all right. Not going to make too much comment on that. But then we've got riot shields, voodoo economics. Your turn, your turn. It's just business, cattle prods, the IMF. I trust I can rely on your vote. Riot shields are transparent shields that the police use during riots to protect them from thrown objects. The mention of them in the song suggests that there has been a riot against politicians and their policies. Neoliberal politicians in the 80s and 90s broke their promises and were viewed as untrustworthy, which gave a rise to a major wave of protests through the late 90s and 2000s. This was a term used by H.W. Bush to refer to Reagan's plan for the government called Reaganomics. It was criticized by many, just like the elections happening in England at the time. The International Monetary Fund loans millions of dollars to small, underdeveloped countries. This would be a nice humanitarian gesture if it wasn't for the ridiculous terms of the loans. The country now has no control over their economy, and the IMF ensures that the currency is weakened. Almost all trade is of very little benefit to the third world country. In essence, the poor third world country is now poorer and indebted to the IMF, who has given them no opportunities to improve their situation. Not only that, but now they're trying to paint themselves as the saviors of the world to the rest of society. You know, the people who created stuff like the IMF. And yeah, all right. The regulations concerning the loans are commonly referred to as the golden straitjacket. The cattle prods therefore refer to the way in which poor countries are treated by large multinational organizations. Trademark slogan for any political candidate. It's a campaign message present everywhere across every political spectrum. The constant hammering of the message into the voters' minds builds a sense of trust and confidence, which ultimately helps the candidate gather support. Despite all the aforementioned consequences of neoliberal policy, the politician singing knows that his base will turn out in support at the end, maintaining the status quo. Repeat of the chorus. This is a great song. Like, I did not realize anything about these lyrics when I was listening to it at the first time. And yeah, so thank you for joining me. Thank you for looking through Electioneering and Fitter Happier with me. Fun stuff. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this record and looking through the lyrics to it. I feel like this album is a bit of a cultural icon, very influential, and yeah, I really like it. All right, thank you for joining me. Deathstroke 9 out. Stay tuned for more. See you guys soon.